playtime at Hillocks Primary School near Mansfield in Nottinghamshire. In primaries across England, these moments are precious as SATs get ever closer. There's growing concern among both professionals and parents about how the pressure to get high scores used to judge schools is affecting what happens in the classroom.
Adverbs, prepositions and determiners. OK, I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Off you go.
Every morning at Hillocks, Year 6 students study only English and maths. This lesson is preparing children for the SPAG test in spelling, punctuation and grammar introduced last year.
10-minute SPAGs, OK, have a go at it yourselves.
Also new was making SATs for 10 and 11-year-olds much harder and either pass or fail. Most of last year's Year 6 at this school didn't pass.
I know for a fact there will be a percentage of children in my classroom that will be classed as a failure. They've got to go home and tell people at home that they're deemed a failure. I just find it shocking.
Down the corridor, 5-year-old Talia is practising taking the Phonics Test, which all children must now do in Year 1.
Gex. Lemp.
She has to read aloud both real words and made-up words, which have an alien next to them.
Chalk.
It's a ludicrous test, especially for children that are so young in primary school, having to test their kind of retaining of phonemes, but also on isolated words that have no correlation to what we might have been doing in class, no meaning to their life at the moment. I just feel it's a very dull test. It's one where we're not allowed to give any input whatsoever. So that kind of gut feeling as a teacher when you want to tell a child, you've done really well with that, we're not allowed to make any comment of that at all.
Next year, Talia will sit Year 2 SATs.
And that's pressure for them. Some of them, could be given that mental arithmetic test and they're meant to do it in 30 minutes, including any workings out. And for some of my children, that is just an horrendous process to go through.
Oh.
At Hillocks, as in many schools, they try to make the learning as enjoyable as possible within the constraints of a much harder curriculum. But some head teachers are now so frustrated. As individuals, they're speaking out.
There's clear evidence that this is having an impact on children's mental health. And, there's people that have spoken about that. There's research that's been done into that. There's huge waiting lists. And children at a younger and younger age are being referred. And that can't be good for our society to have such a huge amount of children with mental health problems.
I don't have an issue with us testing children and being accountable. I think we are now testing them on a curriculum that is not appropriate for 10 and 11-year-old children. And I personally think we should be developing the whole child and not just their ability to sit an English or a maths test.
When teachers and a reputation of a school rests on those children in a test room, then it makes the pressure toxic for both teachers and children. By making accountability measures broader, then you would take the pressure off that one-stop shop of a test that is going to define you as a school and you as a teacher.
So is this increasingly test-driven primary education damaging children's ability to learn?
I think it's affecting their learning massively. I think a lot of the kids are switched off to it. I think a lot of kids are excluded from it. They must be sat there day in, day out, having to listen to me teach things which just don't mean anything to them. Just their self-esteem must be sometimes on the floor.
I don't think it actually readies them for a life of education at high school, because we rote teach them. They become part of a testing factory, and then we send them off to high school and they don't have the skills to be independent learners. I hate SATs. As a mum and as a teacher, I completely hate SATs. I hate the whole thing they stand for. I hate the pressure put on teachers. I hate the pressure put on children.
Schools everywhere are hoping their scores this year will be better than last year. If they fall, they risk demotion in the league tables, they may even have an Ofsted inspection and could even be academised. Some will argue that higher scores are proof that children are meeting higher standards. Others will claim schools are simply getting better at teaching to the test. The More Than a Score Coalition is campaigning to change the primary assessment system, so learning is no longer dominated by tests.